in the lips of many people, there has been lots of talk on the issue of tithing in the church. And the question has been, is tithing a thing of the New Testament? Or better still, is tithing a thing of the church of today? There has been lots of controversies surrounding this particular subject of tithing. Many people have come up with different and or diversified opinions. But one person, a Nigerian radio host, a journalist to be precise, who read computer sciences and later became a journalist, now is championing a theological doctrine and truth. However, many pastors have not been able to mention his name, but many very influential Nigerian pastors have been making references to his social media preaching. Well, his real name's Ifedayo Olarinde, popularly known as Daddy Freeze. He's been on the campaign against Nigerian pastors and their Christians, calling them all sorts of names. The very name he called the Christians of Nigeria.
If you pay tithe to any Nigerian pastor, you are a goat.
And he called them goats because they are paying tithe. And I'm like, oh wow, you call Christians goats. Goats. Wow, that's very interesting. And so this guy has championed this cause of anti-tithing to a very great extent. And of course, guess what? He has had lots of following. Let us take our time to do an analysis of what he said. Nigerians who pay tithes to any Nigerian pastor.
If you pay tithe to any Nigerian pastor, you are a goat.
If you are not a Nigerian and you pay tithe to your pastor, you're not a goat, okay? You are a normal human being in your right senses and just practicing the right religion. And especially, he gives a clause. I think if he were to write his own Bible, this is an additional clause he will add. And especially, what else?
Especially if you neglect what you're supposed to do. I've had people argue with me, so you think I'm giving my money to my pastor? I'm giving it to God. Hello. The transfer of earthly wealth to spiritual wealth has nothing to do with pastors.
And then, what do you expect me to do? It's a guy who probably, most evidently, have studied scripture, read through the Bible, but he has read the Bible just like a textbook and has interpreted the Bible just like a textbook. Let me tell you something. The Bible is not like every other textbook that you read. If you do not have any basic hermeneutical knowledge, and hermeneutics is the science of biblical interpretation. If you have not taken time to study the science of biblical interpretation, you know what you're going to do with scripture, especially when it has to do with complicated doctrines as such? You're going to be committing a crime in theology called heresy. And the person committing that crime becomes a heresist. So, in one of the serious faults I was able to pick out without any stress was the fact that he thinks. Now, this is what he makes me to know that he has a problem with interpreting scripture. When he speaks about Malachi, this is what makes me to believe that he has a very narrow mind as far as interpreting scripture is concerned. Listen to what he says about Malachi.
There's a very popular Nigerian verse written by the lesser prophet Malachi when he was addressing the people, and it's Malachi 3:8-10.
In his opinion, Malachi is a lesser prophet. And when you look at his expression, now, since Malachi is a lesser prophet, a smaller prophet, or someone who's not a very big prophet, like Isaiah and the others, what he said might not just be too applicable. But if you studied theology and the hermeneutics, you understand that in scripture, any word in scripture has a significance. If you are studying the Bible and you see an A written somewhere, always step aside and ask yourself, what is this A or D or therefore doing on this space? My friend, takes our pleasure in thinking that since Malachi was a lesser prophet, he had a very little saying. In your opinion, when did the story of the tithing start in the Bible?
The story starts in Nehemiah 10:38.
No, the story of the tithe did not start in Nehemiah. The story of the tithe in the Bible started in Genesis chapter 14, verse 19, when Abraham was coming back from the war and he decided to go give a tenth of the spoils he gathered. The spoils he gathered were his properties. So he decided to give a tenth of the spoil to who? To Melchizedek, the priest. So that is when the tithing started. Are we together? Does that make sense? And I want to ask you this last question. Did Abraham give tithe?
Abraham was coming from a war and he gave tithes of what he gathered from the war to Melchizedek.
How many times?
And it's only recorded in the Bible once that he gave tithe.
Only once. Now you see the mentality of someone who sees scripture as an event. It should just be an event. So because it is an event, it should not be repeating itself again. Who was supposed to collect the tithe?
You're supposed to give 10% to the priest. Then the remaining 80% is supposed to take care of the Levites.
Okay. Who?
You're supposed to give 10% to the priest.
The priest. Okay, I see. So you know who was supposed to collect the tithe. So in today's church, who is the priest? You definitely don't know who the priest is in today's church. And when he makes one of his analysis, he says that the priests were...
The priests who are supposed to take 10% of the tithe into the storehouse are the ones robbing God.
It's true, from Malachi chapter 2, verse 1 downward, you would see that God was directly addressing the priests. Now, when you get down to Malachi chapter 3, verse 9, let us read what verse 9 says.
Ye are cursed with a curse. For ye have robbed me, even this whole nation. Malachi 3:9.
According to what verse 9 is saying, it's now addressing the nations. He now struggles to, move from the Old Testament and to the New Testament.
Jesus never paid tithe.
True. Jesus never paid tithe. Why? The answer is simple. Jesus was God. And secondly, did Jesus ever talk about tithing? Yes, Jesus spoke about tithing. Open with me to Matthew chapter 23, verse 23. And it reads,
Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites! For ye pay tithe of mint, and anise and cumin, and have omitted the weightier matters of the law, judgment, mercy, and faith. These ought ye to have done, and not to leave the other undone.
Luke
18:11-12. The Pharisee stood and prayed thus with himself. God, I thank thee, that I am not as other men are, extortioners, unjust, adulterers, or even as this publican. I fast twice in the week. I give tithes of all that I possess.
Confirms Matthew chapter 23 verse 23 that Jesus actually took out time to confirm that tithing was still a Jewish practice in his time, or better still, when he was on earth. And guess what Jesus Christ said about the law? Let us still stick to scripture according to Matthew
5:17. Think not that I am come to destroy the law, or the prophets. I am not come to destroy, but to fulfill.
You see? So if tithing was an Old Testament practice, now did this in any way say that tithing should stop? At the time of Jesus, there was a very much whole of the Old Testament Judaic practices which were not in any way, I'll say this again, they were not in any way abolished. Another question I want to ask you, was Jesus given money for his ministry? Yes, Jesus was given money for his ministry. Open with me to the book of Luke chapter 8, verse 1 to 3.
Soon afterward Jesus traveled through the cities and villages, preaching and proclaiming the good news of God's kingdom. The 12 were with him, along with some women who had been healed of evil spirits and sicknesses. Among them were Mary Magdalene, from whom 7 demons had been thrown out, 3 Joanna, the wife of Herod's servant Chuza, Susanna, and many others who provided for them out of their resources.
Why was he giving money? Jesus was giving money according to verse 1 of Luke chapter 8, verse 1. Jesus was giving money for the advancement of the work he came to do here on earth. So if there are churches at this moment interested in collecting or who are practicing tithing, even as an Old Testament law or as an Old Testament practice, they are not sinning. They are not sinning. The church you might want to clone as sinning are those who are people. They are pastors. I will admit I'm a pastor, I know I'm saying. They are pastors who are using church as business or as a business center. But there are genuine pastors out there who are intentional about promoting the gospel of Jesus Christ. There are people, there are Christians out there who are intentional about paying their tithe. There are people out there who are intentional about giving for the advancement of the work of God. And that is why you see these 3 women in the book of Luke chapter 8 verse 1 to 3 giving their money to Jesus and the disciples in order to see that the work of the ministry moves ahead. And this guy comes up with another crazy ideology of tithing. And by the way, if the place where the Lord have chosen for you to give your tithe is too far, what do you do with your tithe again?
Sell your tithe and bring the money and use it to buy whatever you want.
And if it's too far, where are you supposed to eat the tithe?
And you are supposed to eat these foods and drink this strong drink in the place the Lord has chosen.
And of course, what are you supposed to buy with your tithe money? Just in case the place where the Lord has chosen for you to give your tithe is too far.
Things included beer and strong drink. And you are supposed to eat these foods and drink this strong drink in the place the Lord has chosen.
I believe you have a brain to reason out things. You have a spirit to tell you to do the right thing. The choice is all yours. Thank you very much for being a part of our show today. And if you did enjoy the video, just do well to click the red button below and subscribe.